Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you, Priscilla. Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here talking about a topic that truly it's of most interest of mine, because I think we all, as the Spiritists, do have the obligation, the main duty, to know what portray us in terms of message. There are many techniques about public speaking out there, great books, fantastic courses. So in that regard, I want you to keep in mind, this is not going to be a course. First of all, time will not allow us. Second, what are you going to hear today? It's about specifics that a Spiritist speaker needs to know. There are things that you have to keep in mind, because first of all, and most important to begin with, I'm sorry to speak closer. All right, so we'll try to. The most important thing is for you to keep in mind, to speak about Spiritism is not a show. Keep that in mind. You have to speak from the heart. If you forget that, if you go to an audience, if you come to a podium, if you come to a stage to try to impress people out of your ego, you're a failure from the beginning. This is not your goal. This should not be your goal. Your goal is to strive for excellence, to do the best presentation that you can prepare and present to do to everyone, and to present the phenomenal, the wonderful message of Spiritism. So that's the very number one thing that we all Spiritist speakers should keep in mind. You speak from the heart. You should not come to an audience to impress anyone. So this is the first thing that we also got to remember. This is not a saying from Allan Kardec. This is from a saying from the Spirit of Truth. We should love one another. That's the very first precept. We have very differences of opinion. We are different people, thank God. Otherwise it would be so boring, so boring to be all the same, right? So we have diversity, and this is wonderful. We all can learn from one another. But sometimes it's kind of difficult to love one another. But that's what we're here for, to love one another. This is the very first precept. But here, this part, let's see here. It's not, okay, no problem. We go here. This part, the educate part, who do you think this educate part is related to? Who does, right here. Of course, as a Spiritists, we all should, at the same time, strive to educate ourselves, right? The books are there. The information is there. There are phenomenal lectures on the media for us to learn from. But this part, educate yourselves, pertain to us as speakers. Because educating ourselves, we will instruct better. You have to keep in mind, the same way you have a habit of doing you have different habits in your daily activities, you should incorporate reading, studying. If you want to be a Spiritist worker, if the word laziness, I'm not feeling like reading comes to your mind, you should think about doing something else. Because a Spiritist worker has to study, has to strive to learn more, has to hear other Spiritist workers from the same lesson, from the same instruction, from the same Spirit's instruction. We all perceive that instruction in a different way. So, different points of view, not a different information, but different ways to portray the same message is something that we all can learn from one another. So let's not forget that. If you want to be a Spiritist worker, you have to study. You have to learn. And I'm not talking about learning one hour a week. You should incorporate at least 5 times a week. And I understand that sometimes the brain gets lazy. So remember that in terms of reading, if you just lie down in a couch and comfortably, you're going to end up not absorbing the information the same way. So when you are reading, you're not just relaxing. You're a speaker. So you should put yourself in a position to learn. When you go to college, you go to school, you just sit in front of a desk and you have a book and you read. Put a chemistry book in front of you in a couch, in a comfortable couch, you're going to sleep after 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Besides, it's heavy, isn't it? Well, we have the iPads today. But anyways, the idea is that you should put yourself in a position that you're going to absorb the lesson and you are learning, you are studying. The more you know, the more you're going to be able to affect people. The more you understand the message, the more you'll be able to touch people's hearts. And the more you live the message, the more you try to incorporate those lessons in your daily living, the more you're going to be able to teach people's hearts. We are here to portray knowledge into touch people's hearts. Heart and mind and heart. The message of Christ is peace. The message of Kardec is knowledge. You have to portray both. If you can do both, you might be a good speaker. You might know a lot, but if you're not going to be able to touch people's hearts. And your mission is to touch people's hearts. Because that's the main goal of Spiritism, is to help people to transform themselves, to evolve. We have to live this earth, this incarnation, better than we came in. And this is one of your missions, to help people to leave this world better than they came in. So educate yourselves so you can educate better, then you can instruct better. Why PowerPoints? I would say that most people who are into, at least who are willing to speak in public, they have some natural ability to do so. First of all, they like to be in front of people. They like to teach. A speaker likes to teach. Sometimes we teach too much. We've got to be careful with that. Sometimes we are trying to teach when we are not supposed to teach, when you're supposed to shut up, right? But that's a natural ability, true. And some people say, well, why PowerPoints? Well, I just can come up and speak. I have studied, I have prepared my lecture. Why do I need PowerPoints? Well, first of all, the obvious, right? We live in a technological world. And this is the standard for business-related presentations, for educational presentations, for technical presentations. And most important, people they learn better. Your presentations will be much more effective with a PowerPoint because people do learn better from visual presentations. The thing is, how to use a PowerPoint. And hopefully, you're going to leave this workshop with the idea what not to do in terms of PowerPoints. There are some mistakes that we have to avoid. It's easy to avoid, too. very easily avoidable. So your PowerPoints, first of all, of course, they have to be visible. They got to be simple, if possible, colorful. The text, of course, should be large enough so people can read, and the color of the text also with the contrast with the background should be clear enough so people can read. Sometimes, depending on the projector, you put, like, for example, let's say if you have like a purple background, and you want to emphasize a specific word, then you put a red, does not make a contrast. The red disappears. So I understand that when you put a PowerPoint in different, we all understand that. When you put a PowerPoint in different computers, you will have different colors, but try to put like the basics in terms that, you know, white against black and all that. But have to be visible. And one very important thing is in terms of bullets. You should not put in entire sentences in a PowerPoint. A PowerPoint should be objective, clear. It's an aid, it's a visual aid for the person who is listening to you. It's a visual aid for you too, because this is one advantage that we as the speakers do have today, that in the past we have to have our notes, but the PowerPoints do trigger your memory if you are to forget one word or the other, or one part of your presentation or the other. Diagrams, smart graphics will be very powerful. If you have some statistics in the form of a diagram, it's instead of trying to describe a whole 90 yards of information, just put a diagram. Smart graphics in PowerPoint are just fantastic. You can use that at your taste, and it will enhance the quality of your presentation so much. Okay, what do you think about this? I'm going to start reading this here, and they'll say, oh my goodness, all right. The 10 biggest public speaking mistakes will be the very first one. Okay, is everybody paying attention? Yes or no? Are you in this one or in the other one? Okay, everybody. So let's start learning this lesson. Don't start with a whimper. Okay, so I start reading all this. What do you think about this now? Look at the difference. What do you prefer? This slide or this slide? Okay, so this slide here, all this information here, don't start with a thank you for your kind introduction. This is a whimper. Okay, this is one of the pointers that we're going to be doing today. So you come to a presentation, people don't want hear that you're going to thank the whole 9 yards, the amount of people that did help you with the presentation, the people who invite you. Be simple. People who invite you already know that you are very glad to be there. Just be simple. Sometimes when we do so many thank yous, sometimes we just want to call the attention to ourselves. Thank you for inviting me. Forget that. You're there to work. Thank God to give you the opportunity to invite you. Of course, we all gotta be polite. Do your thank you for inviting me to the people who invite you, but you don't need to say that in public. But remember, these notes here, all this that comes from the pointers, this is part of your notes that you can put all this here in the note part of the PowerPoint. So your PowerPoint to the public should look like this. And say, oh my gosh, how about if I forget? Well, prepare. This is another thing we're gonna listen. You're gonna listen from me and from any instructor. I'm not a teacher. The mentors are teachers. We're just like aerobics instructors here, just learning something. We're instructing whatever we have learned. But keep it in mind. you have to prepare for your lecture. You should know what you're going to say. So, another mistake, another very, very common mistake, related that we just said in terms of bullets, the visual part, very clear. It's important for your public. And I would say, I think I can say that, the biggest mistake you as a speaker can make, is to read your PowerPoints. Listen, your PowerPoint is not a book. Your slide is not a book. To read, people stay home, in the comfort of their home, of their time. Do not read your PowerPoint. If you're not comfortable enough, you're not prepared. If you're not comfortable enough to present a talk without remembering what you're supposed to say, you're not prepared. And that happens. Because so many of us here, I would say, do not only speak in public. You as Spiritist workers do other things too. And it will be times that it will be very difficult to be sharply prepared for a lecture. But remember this, if you're not perfectly prepared for a lecture, do never apologize. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hello, everybody. I really did not have time to prepare this lecture. Do never say that. Use your creativity. Know that your lecture is not going to be up to your standard in terms of excellency, because we all should strive for excellency, for excellence. Excellence, that's the word. So we should strive for that. But if by any chance, if something happens, you cannot prepare the lecture as you should, do never apologize for the public. And you say, oh, okay, that would be so nice if I could read my slides, if I really did not present. Okay, I will not apologize, but how about I just leave my notes there? Don't. Use your creativity. Really use your creativity, okay? Or just reduce the number of slides. Or recycle one of your old lectures. That's a good thing. Recycle the lectures. That sometimes happens. That sometimes helps, and it is necessary. Mainly if you are to substitute somebody in the last minute. That will happen in your center. That speaker might not come to the lecture. And if you are the coordinator of that session, of that day, of that evening, you have to be prepared. You should always have a second, or I would say 2 or 3 lectures in your hard drive, in your computer, in your pen drive, as a backup if you need to substitute somebody last minute, okay? So remember this. Are you paying attention? Are you going to remember this? Yes or no? Yeah. Yes. We're not going to read our slides. Very good. How about this? Okay. All right. We already know that we should not put full sentences in a slide. We should look for what? For bullets, right? Very simple, objective slides. But imagine even if you have this in bullets here. Can you read? No. Of course not. If you can read, imagine the public. And some people do at a distance, or they have they are nearsighted or whatever, right? So of course you should have the font size large enough so people can read well. Remember, your PowerPoint is your visual aid, and should be the visual aid for the people who are listening to you. So no small fonts. Very good. Design. This is beautiful, isn't it? This is very pretty, but it can be distractive. If you keep changing the design of your slides too much, It's good if you keep the same style, but if you change from a very modern design to something more artistic, you're going off. Okay, so remember, we are having a presentation about public speaking. It's something more technical, isn't it? Of course, we're trying to put our charm and our heart in the middle, and that's what you're going to do. But if your presentation is for something more technical, don't go in that area of being so artistic. But that will be so nice to talk about. This will be a nice design if you want to talk about, for example, go and sow your seed. Well, a speaker is sowing the seed too. But could you use these slides? Yeah, depending on the public. I'm talking to people here that are spiritual professionals of Spiritism in the best way. In the best way we could say. Because of course, we speakers do never charge for our talks. We should be professionals in a way that we should present with excellence. We should be prepared. But we are professionals of the heart and the mind and the heart. Out there, you're only going to find professionals of the mind. With passion, we know that. But we Spiritists have a lot of things in common in terms of using same techniques, same public speaking techniques. But there are lots of differences because of the message we want to portray and what we want to do with our message is what? We want to what? Touch people's what? Hearts. So very good. Different designs. I myself change the designs quite a bit because I think same design all the time, it can be boring, but I will make a point and I try to not to change as much as I can. But keep it in mind that the same design also helps you instead of just changing all the time. Now look at this. How about this? This is the other extreme. No design whatsoever. No color, no pictures, no images. This is what? Boring, right? Extremely boring. Yeah, it will be very simple for you to put together a presentation like that, but you also might be easily putting your public to sleep. So let's put the effort to make nice slides too, okay? Most important. What do you think is most important for a presentation? For you to deliver a talk? What is the most important thing? The title? Okay, the title is very important, right? Because the title will impact the public in different ways. But usually who chooses the title is the person who invited you to the lecture, right? Okay. I know that we have Spiritist administrators out there. As far as we know, this is being broadcast to Trevisani. I know we have Spiritist administrators here. And we have people here as well that coordinate sessions, coordinate your speakers to your center. So keep it in mind that we live in the 21st century and we should adapt the impact of the topic of our lectures to the 21st century. Try to be creative. For example, you could present a lecture of the characteristics of a good person, one of the chapters of the Gospel according to Spiritism. And you want to focus on inner transformation and the qualities of a good person. How about calling that lecture Personality Makeover? How about that? Okay? It's different. You want to talk about faith. How about calling your lecture the GPS of the soul? See, you adapt to today's language. And okay, people, look at people saying your lectures. Faith, okay, good. Sowing the seed, good, it's beautiful. But if people hear the topics of your lecture, like the GPS of the soul, personality makeover, the moods of the heart, things that are adapt to the century, you will be able to convey your topic much better, because you attract more people that might not even be interested about listening to a Spiritist talk. So keep that in mind. Creativity, all right? Very good. So we talk about the topic, and we have just been reminded that the topic has been given to the person who invited you to portray the message. But what else? What is important, isn't it? Of course. How about, give me other pointers. What do you think will be also important? Content. Excellent. Absolutely. If your content is boring or it's not full of very good information, your lecture will lack in content and in meaning, and your message will be poor. But above all things, you can have the best lecture ever. Prepare. Prepare for this lecture. Super prepare for the presentation. You can have the best PowerPoints ever put together. You can have the best lecture put together. If you do not prepare for the lecture, are you going to present to the same standard that you have put it together at home? Of course not. So be prepared. Prepare. And you prepare at home. You prepare at home. At an intellectual level. Researching different sources of information. Be careful with the internet. If you want to, this is so important. We live in a world right now that are, after a whole century of Spiritism, there are a lot of material out there. But not all of them portray the real Spiritism. There are distortions already. And what is the only way for you to pick up a distortion? What is the best way for you to know that that source is not being faithful to the Spiritist doctrine? What is the best way? To know the Spiritist doctrine. Absolutely. If you do not know Spiritism, there are 5 books that you have to read and study all over again. And if you are an administrator of a center, you should emphasize the study all the time. People, I already know the book, the medium's book. Oh, sure. Do you really? How about if you hear a message? Are you able to pick up a message in a mediumship meeting that are off? Are you able to pick up a book that is off in terms of Spiritist doctrine? Because there is a very, very dangerous technique that the pseudo spirits writing through mediums do today, and unfortunately, people who are out there that are not truly portraying the Spiritist message. The technique is the following. Pay a lot of attention to what I'm going to tell you right now, what I'm going to say right now. And this is not information from my mind, from my head. I have learned this from other people that are much brighter than myself. What the pseudo spirits do, listen, let's all bring our vibrations up. All the time we talk about delicate subjects, we all gotta pray. You gotta just vibrate love. That's the way we protect ourselves. Okay? The best way to protect ourselves is to just celebrating love when we talk about things that needs to be talked about are delicate topics. What they do, what Sooty Spirits do, out of 10 paragraphs, 9 of them are pure Spiritism. Pure, very good information. But they pass an envelope of a not Spiritist information under the door with 1 paragraph. So that's the usual technique. Out of 10 paragraphs, for example, 9 are perfectly fine in terms of Spiritist information. 1 is off. 1 is a pseudo-true. You know, all the time you start reading a book that you feel there's something, oh wow, I heard this author here is good. This is such a famous medium in Brazil or in Europe, in Canada, or in the Philippines. But you know, I heard this is a very, very good medium. But I feel such a certain level of discomfort reading this book. Believe in your guts. Listen to your guts. Because this is a very, very subtle intuition. It's almost an instinct of a good spiritist. They pick up lies that are very, very subtle. You have to have an eyes of an eagle. Because your message should be the Spiritist message. And you should emphasize study at your center. If your center, if some people in your center think its study groups are boring, you have something to do with it. We understand that Spiritism is not for everybody. We know that. It's not everybody who is gonna really willing to study. A lot of people are just want to receive and receive. We know that. But our part as an instructor, as an administrator, is to motivate people. If people are not really motivated, if those who want to study are not really motivated, you got to watch out the way you are putting together your courses. And the best way to prepare people to study more is to bring to the course those messages from the mentors that prepare Spiritist workers. In our center, there is not a single course, not from the very first months in the basic courses of, let's say, Spiritism 101, but after like 4 months of Spiritism 101, doesn't matter the language, by the way. We are talking about Spiritism here. So in the very first courses, you just give the course, just go along. But little by little, bring the messages from Umberto de Campo, for example, the so-called Brother X. He talks a lot to Spiritists. Bring a case from the book Messengers, for example, from Andy Lewis, the second book from the spiritual collection, The Messengers. The very first chapters talk about cases of Spiritist workers, the messengers. Listen, the messengers, what are they? They are the mediums. That book is about the messengers who came from the spirit world to this world, and they work as mediums. So, well, but I'm a speaker. I'm not a medium. You're not a medium? You're just not conveying the message through channeling at the public. But you are a medium of all the Spiritist message. So you have to remember this. That book, The Messengers, should be read by every one of us very constantly. Because there are 8 or 9 cases there that convey the typical failure of a Spiritist worker. So bring those books to your study group, okay? Bring those messages. Why we fail. We all have all kinds of excuses. Laziness, lack of time, not at the right time. There are very standard and classical excuses for a Spiritist worker. And you form Spiritist workers and the study groups. How many people from your public meetings become Spiritist workers? Just think of that. You yourselves, have you come straight from a Spiritist meeting? A public meeting to this presentation here? If you are, you're ahead of most of us. But most people will be interested. The interest of becoming a Spiritist worker is developed in a study group. And see the importance of an instructor. If you do not if you do not motivate your group to study and to do this, so many hours we dedicate to Spiritism. Hours and hours. For some of us, Spiritism is our life. So, well, you're fanatic. Thank God to this kind of fanaticism in then. Because the world out there have different types of fanaticism, and I don't think they are better off than we are. So yes, we dedicate a lot of hours. But this is good. This is fun. I have never been one single day in my life, and at this point there's quite a bit of years, but not many though, but it has been quite a bit of years doing this. I have never been to a single day to a Spiritist center and think, oh my gosh, I have to work today. Never. It was always fun. I love it. And I'm sure you do too. And this enthusiasm should be portrayed to your group. This is so important. Spiritism is wonderful. Changes people's lives. We are so much better off because of it. In almost 22 centuries. And we are still exercising the same lessons that we all have been exposed to when we were here, when Christ was on earth. Most of us were there. So when I see people a little bit full of themselves because they're mediums or because they are speakers, I think, my goodness, I don't understand that. Because even Emmanuel says, out of all the Spiritist workers, the most in debt are the speakers and the mediums. The worst of the worst in terms of debts is us. So, be humble. Be humble, because it has been almost 22 centuries for you to start passing this message around. Very good. What I have just done, I just drift away from the subject a little bit, didn't I? But what do? You come back. You come back. Always. It's okay to drift away as long as you are to motivate people some way or the other, hopefully. Are you paying attention? Okay, very good. I thought so. You look very interested in this. Very good. Now, so let's be very, very to the point, because there are 10 biggest public speaking mistakes that we should avoid. So here we go. The very first one is like we just said in the very, very beginning. Don't start with a whimper. Don't start with a bang. Start with a statistic, with a quote or some headlines out there. Call people's attention as you can possibly can. In the beginning of our speaking works, we all gonna imitate each other a little bit, or imitate a speaker that you're fond of, that you like. But little by little, just stay true to your own personality. Some people are more some people are noisier, some a little more calm, some more energetic than others. And of course, we should listen to different speakers as much as we can, so we can learn from them if they are considered good speakers. But after some time, you have your own personality. Just remember that. Just incorporate the hints and tips there, but you are wonderful as it is. Believe in yourself. We all have different kinds of charms. Don't be afraid of your accent either. Sometimes if I speak to an audience that I know they are listening to my accent, so I kind of break and make a joke. Oh, I'm my charming Portuguese accent. Do whatever. Do my charming Philippine accent, my charming French accent. Use your creativity. Anyways, failing work the room. What is that? When a spiritist worker, or better say, I'm sorry, when a speaker comes to a presentation, talk to people. You're not a god. You're not somebody that cannot be approached. Just talk to people. Say hello to whoever is there. And always pay attention to that person that is really quiet in the room, that is timid, that is shy. Go and say hello. Don't be the big shot. You're not the big shot. Remember, Emmanuel said the mediums and speakers are the ones with the most depth, spiritually speaking. That was. I think all vanity and all ego goes up. All right, so here we are. Very good. Failing to proofread. Unfortunately, even you proofread your slides for typos. Unfortunately, they happen from time to time. The ideal thing is for you to ask for a friend to check your slides, but this is not going to be always possible. So try to proofread as much as possible. Of course, you can get the checking, the check. I'm sorry? Spelling check. Oh my goodness. See, now I know that you pay attention. You're helping me here. Okay, very good. I was checking if you're paying attention. Oh, by the way, how about if I just had a blank? How about that? You're speaking, you prepare your presentation, all of a sudden it goes blank. That happens even to the best speakers. So if that happens, you got to know what to do, right? The best way is to do what I just did. I'm just using, I just played with you a little bit. I didn't go blank, but it has happened before. So you can use this little joke that I have just used. Let's see if you're paying attention. What I have just said, the public is going to have, oh, you just said, oh, thank God, I already know what I'm saying. So I just want to check if you're paying attention. So the public will help you. So be ready also to know what to do when things do not go very right. And of course, we already spoke about not reading your slides. But listen, I have seen, I'm sure you did too, speakers that come to a podium with a notebook, with notes, and start reading from the notebook. So, oh, Barack Obama, the president does that. No, he doesn't. He take a look and go and speak to the public. He take a look and go and speak to the public. Yes, it's okay for you to have a speech and do that, but you cannot read. As a matter of fact, you just, when you do that, you just remember, you don't have like, what they call, the prompt. You don't have a prompt in front of you. Your slides, for example, the slides here, I have my notes in the slides. But if I bring the notes here, Can I do it? You help me to bring this back? No, so forget it. Okay, if I take this out, if I do escape here, you're going to see my notes. But, yeah, it's easy, right? Yeah. Okay, see, here are my notes. No, I remember, so just put the control. Yeah, the slide. Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Because every computer is different. But anyway, so here are my notes. You're not going to bring this to the public, right? These notes here, you should have them in your mind, of course. But if you don't have, sometimes we don't have the slides. If you don't have your slides, what are you going to do? Will be times that you're not going to have your slides, right? So if you have your notes, just use the notes just like a prompt. All right? You're not going to read. I have seen people reading a speaker. Is reading the whole speech, the whole presentation. There is nothing more boring than that. Oh, but I'm insecure. Okay, you're insecure. Good. It's good to be insecure. So this means that you just need to work a little better on that insecurity. Okay? Very good. Going on. Another very common mistake, like we said, is reading the notes, but is speaking without passion. Hi, everybody. We're going to be speaking about Spiritist public speaking mistakes right now. It's very important that we speak with passion. Do your presentation like that. It will be 5 minutes, people start sleeping. And people will sleep eventually. And also, be careful with that, because people will be tired in your lectures. Okay? They come from a whole day of work. From time to time, people will sleep on you. All right? But don't let that bother you. Make some noise. Just speak a little louder. If the person does not wake up, they're lost. And you cannot get affected if somebody's not paying attention, because that will happen. It's not everybody. You're not that interesting. People, not everybody will like your style. You're not going to be able to speak to everybody. You're not going to be able to please everybody. Just do the best as you can, because there will be always somebody criticizing your lectures. There will be always somebody saying something about you. As a matter of fact, they will say something if you do. And if you don't, people like to talk. They love to talk. It's only them. We don't do that. Only they out there criticize. We don't, right? So let's be humble. People will say bad things about you. Just listen to the criticism that makes sense to you. The ones that will make sense to you, what are you going to do? Even if the person is right, you're not ready to change. That's the level of your involvement. So just do your best. Listen to what you can, absorb and change what you can, and what you can't, that'll be their turn to be patient with you. Okay? We should never end a speech or a talk with a question. You know, let's end the talk and then open for the Q&A. Failing to prepare, of course, is the biggest of the biggest mistakes you can possibly do. Any questions? Oh no, we have a Q&A questions right after. Very good. Hold your questions. I know you're dying to ask questions. So you're going to leave the questions to our friend Maurizio. All right. I don't know. Okay. Now, if we just mentioned public speaking mistakes, but this is a Spiritist mistake. Don't preach to your audience. Don't speak from here to here. You out there, do this. You change this. You. No, it's always us. You you are not doing well at home. You're not being tolerant. We are not being well in being tolerant. All is we. The only difference between your audience and the stage is the height of the stage. If you show how human you are, people will, they will create a major rapport with you. There is another extreme, is making the lecture about you. You all the time you speak about you. Is this the lecture? Is this the message? Yes or no? Of course not. But can you put from time to time a little message, a little stories about you? Of course you should. It's interesting. People like. And even you know, if you have some things in your life that are not that ideal, yeah, mention them from time to times. In our center, people kind of know big parts of my life, not all of them, but that makes us humans. And they realize that the person who's speaking there goes through the same challenges that they do too. Okay, so do not preach. Don't pick from the top to bottom. We are all in the same boat. And the second huge spiritist mistake we have mentioned the very first beginning of our talk today. Let's see if you remember. If I fail to impress you, upon you on that, I will be a failure with my talk. What is the biggest mistake we as speakers can make? Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. If you are going to a speaking engagement waiting for this, you should stay home. You're not here to impress people. Leave your ego at home. You're not the message. You are the messenger. Okay? You are not the message. It's not about you. It's not about you. The message is not about you. It's about what? It's about Spiritism. Your part, you are in the middle to make the message brighter, to touch people's hearts. Okay, tips for public speaking. You can find any book in the internet. Just type there, Google it. There are wonderful pieces of information out there. I'll just mention to you, and we go from there. We have up to. Let's see. I'll give you a little break. Up to what time we have our talk today? Up to? Up to noon. Imagine if I make them to listen to me. Okay. We have 15 minutes, but I think we can finish before that. And I think those are just reminders. Google it. Just read. Learn from these wonderful speakers we have in the Spiritist movement. And we know that some of them, like Mr. Divaldo Franco, is a master in storytelling. This is probably one of the biggest the biggest characteristics, one of the better characteristics of a good speaker. I'm not there yet, but I'll get there. Okay? Knowing stories, be able to tell like he does. In the very first beginning, he usually starts with a story. This is so interesting. I have done that once, and I saw just once because I really couldn't get to that yet. But I did learn a whole story, and I tried to portray this story with all the colorful images I could possibly do. the interest, the level of interest of the audience was tremendous. And then I thought to myself, no wonder he is so successful. Because you could see people, you know, just like a soap opera, people say, what happened next? So you gotta be a master to do that well. And right now we all doing our high school degree in speaking, college, but there are the ones who are true PhDs and postdoc instructors that we have there, like one of them is Devaldo and others. So try to aim to learn. So this is the stage I am. I like to master storytelling as much as we can. Also, to say a poem, to be able to say a poem in the end of a lecture is also wonderful. And that will require major practice at home, but it's possible. And of course, emotion and interest. You are there to invoke people's interest, to raise people's emotion, or to evoke people's interest, emotion, and raise people's interest in terms of message. That's your goal as a speaker. Body language. A stiff speaker, it's boring. Put people to sleep. Now, if you this is not a ballet, all right? I love to speak with the headsets, yeah, without dust. I love to do that. And it's good because it keeps alive. But it's possible to move in a podium too. So don't be stiff. And remember, when you arrive at the podium, in the very first beginning, it's important some formality. If you say, hey, everybody, you know, this is not high school here. So have some formality. And then lighten up in later on. Just be more natural. So body language is important. Make eye contact. Look at people. If you're nervous, don't look at people. When I'm nervous for some reason, I have been nervous before, and we all get nervous once in a while. It's normal. So just look the general audience, you know, that works too. It's important to smile. Just be natural. Just be nice. Appearance. This is not a show, but your obligation is to look good in a way to get the message looking good. All right? So avoid to speak with a t-shirt, even if you're in your center. Just use a shirt. Leave your t-shirt when you are off grounds, podium grounds. Okay? Try to use something discreet. If you come to a podium with a looking, you know, it's the fashion for girls is like salmon and the lime. Leave that for your outings, just to try to be a little more modest and more discreet. Be careful with very low cuts. You're not there to have people looking in your bra, okay? Watch out. If you have a blouse that is transparent, you're not going to be able to speak because the energy will go down, all right? Guys, with all respect, please don't go and speak in sneakers and in shorts. I'm sure is not, I'm sure no, because I'm not that familiar with this part of the U.S. But in Florida, we are extremely informal. I have to ask speakers not to come to speak in shorts. I have to ask speakers not to come with flip-flops, because that's an absurd in my mind. But my part is not never to look like how absurd my mind is going. So I just ask, please, let's have some formality. Imagine you getting to a new place that you have never been before, and the person there is flip-flops, in sneakers and shorts. Come on. Gotta have some respect for the public. Gotta have some respect for the public. Another thing is, so many of us are going to the center, to our centers at night, straight from work. So women usually is more careful with their appearance, but I have seen lots of my wonderful guy friends, they come to the podium with the hair, look like they just woke up after a whole day of work, okay? The face is all oily, all tired, the beard is the 5 o'clock shadow. When you look that tired, just take the time to go to the restroom, wash your face, and brush your hair. Just very simple, okay? And girls, you know, my makeup is always blurry, so I do that not in front of the public. So you're not gonna do this in front of the public, right? So you do that where? In the restroom, okay? So nobody's gonna do that in front of the public. But remember, you gotta have some care with your appearance. Voice. If you speak in the same tone, very low voice all the time, people are gonna sleep very quickly, right? It's boring. So change the tone of your voice. Trying to remember one very important thing. When you are speaking public, your voice gotta come out very strong out of your lungs. You gotta impose your voice, if I could say that. So practice the best way is when everybody's out. We do this with some of our friends in our center. We just practice. Have somebody sitting there and just practice. Oh no, you're not speaking. The position of your shoulders will give strength to your voice. So just practice. Some of us have a very strong voice naturally, and it's very, very common if the person is nervous, start speaking in a lower voice. Sometimes we in the back start putting the volume louder because the person is getting nervous, the voice is going down, and we go louder there, and the person finally gets comfortable in the podium. Then, oh my gosh, you gotta lower very quickly. But watch out, control your voice. Make gestures convincing, not be a wimp up front of the people. People will think you are boring. Position, move around in the stage a little bit as much as you can. And the practice is the way to go. Practice, practice, practice. We have talked about us, and hopefully that stays in your heart. Speak from the heart. Most of the tips about Spiritist speaking that you're going to see in the next slide, I have already mentioned them. But that's number one. If you can leave here today with that in mind, I'll be happy. Don't try to impress people. Don't talk out of your ego. We have to do things right this time. We have been the politicians of the past. We have been the scientists, the teachers, professors, the educators of the past. We have moved frontiers. Lots of us are spreading Spiritism out of the main country that disseminates Spiritism in the world, which is Brazil. We are spread around the world in almost every country right now. And those who left Brazil to be in other countries like we, for example. We are in the U.S., in Canada, in France, in Italy, in Portugal. We are in Puerto Rico. There is a part of the U.S., but we are also in Cuba. We are in the Philippines. We are in Russia. We are in Germany. We are in France. And most of us who are outside our countries, the countries where we are born, and so many of us came from Brazil. Remember, we are the ones who moved the frontiers in the world in the past. Most of us. So we are in debt, my friends. Big time debt. Let's try to do things right. The mentors gave us the option to come and redeem our past through the works of Spiritism. Let's see if we learn this time. Do it right. Do it simple. We are all full of our egos because that's what we have been in the past. Most of us have been public figures in the past. In small towns and big towns, representing countries, our egos are huge. So let's lower. We are here talking about the one who created us all. We are here to portray the message of Christ. We are here to change people's understanding of life under the light of Spiritism. It's a wonderful responsibility. I'm not going to say that it's a mission, because mission is for the superior spirits. For us, it's our task, it's our job, it's our opportunity. Let's do things right. So, don't wait to become perfect before you're speaking. Start speaking, because it's the work that makes us better. Don't be afraid of spiritual tests, because they will come. If you're going to speak about faith, if you're going to speak about patience, you're probably going to be tested about faith and patience that week. Don't be afraid of that. That will happen. Don't be afraid of criticism. We have talked about that too. But be very afraid of praises and adoration and compliments, all that, because we are not ready yet to listen to that without being affected. Deal with applause. I have to say that I understand that people in an audience, if they listen to somebody, they want to clap. I understand that. But in our center, we ask the public not to clap. It's not a show. It's not a show. It should work as a show. Everything should be perfect. The person, the lights, the music, and everything. But this is not a show. And we ask in our center, every center has a different way of organizing. It's okay. But the applaud, I think, why they are applauding the speaker, they should be applauding the person also who is giving the passes, who is preparing the coffee shop, spend the whole weekend preparing pies and cakes, and do a huge bake sale so we can maintain our centers. So let's pass the coffee shops, let's start applauding. Let's applaud the people, mostly girls, who are educating our young. So I don't understand this thing about applauding speakers. They should be the ones who should never receive any applause, because their ego is usually big. So be careful with applause. Just deal with them. And of course, if people do applaud you, if you're going in a different place, just be natural. Just be kind and polite. We have 5 minutes, and I will make a point to mention, be very careful with sensitive topics like politics, homosexuality, marriage, divorce, the idea of guilt. When you present these topics, be very, very careful. Our minds are still very much related to a way of viewing things in the past. So when we mention the action and reaction mechanisms of the universe and the karma, we present, this is your debit, this is your karma. We are all learners of this on this path of evolution, and we should always be careful when we mention, when we present suicide, abortion. If the audience does not leave the center consoled, you have not done your job. If you use the message of Spiritism to inform, but as a knife to cut people's hearts, you are a failure as a speaker. So watch out what you say. I record all my lectures. If Divaldo Franco records and watches his own lectures, I am humble enough to record all my lectures, and I'll listen to them, all of them. Because you hear your mistakes. You hear the way you said something. Oh my gosh, I should have never said that. So you learn from your own mistakes. So let's be very careful with that. In talking about sensitive topics, when we talk about other religions, please refer to Catholics and Protestants as traditional Christianity. Oh, I don't want to say anything about Catholics, but I don't want to say anything about the evangelicals, but please, this is a no, no, no. Refer to traditional religions, traditional philosophies, traditional Christianity. Sometimes in our centers, mostly, some people are so spiritually disturbed, they start acting out. If they start acting out, keep talking. Because it's very common, the spirits, unfortunately, use the public to distract you and distract the public. If a child starts crying out loud, keep talking, keep talking. So don't let the audience distract you. What do I mean about be prepared, things can go wrong? The projector might not work. The center might not have a projector if you're going to speak in different places. Your computer can go down, their computer can go down. So be prepared having your own computer with you and your prints. I have spoke out of my notes. So, well, Livia, you just spoke in the beginning not to speak out of your notes. But if everything is off, you can follow. Just listen, guys, no problem. Just take control. No problem. I have my notes here. My slides are here, printed. You just follow the same way. Just be quick. Take control of the audience. Know your material. We have already talked about that. We already talked about do not apologize. Be careful with the slangs, please. You guys, it's cute, all of them, but don't use the slangs all the time, and don't use the slangs that are really, really strong and a little bit hardcore. It's a no-no. I will talk about the audience in the next slides for us to close, and I will mention this. In a public meeting, you do not say, we Spiritists do that. You only should say, we can do anything. We should. We should not use the word, this expression, we Spiritists in a public meeting, because there are other people from other religions. You may use we Spiritists in a study group, when you know the people who are attending study group most likely are already Spiritists. So avoid this thing of cutting people off by saying we Spiritists, and the person who is not a Spiritist saying, whoa, what is that? Okay? Oh, I don't feel like I'm filling in. And culture. Like we just mentioned, so many of us are spreading Spiritism out of our own country. Doesn't matter what country you are in. Doesn't matter where you live. No, doesn't matter the language. You are spreading Spiritism. But be aware of expressions of your own culture. Be aware of examples of your own culture. So if you usually do something in France, and if you are in the Philippines, avoid the examples from France. Use the Philippine culture examples. So many of us are from Brazil, and we come to other countries saying, oh, in Brazil we do that. And as a Brazilian, allow me to say, there is an expression in Brazil that is so funny, but it is an expression, say, pardon my French. This should say pardon my Portuguese, you know, but it's an expression, pardon my French. I'm going to say something that is not proper. Not proper meaning, not that French is not proper. This is not a bad example. It's getting worse by the minute. Okay, it's an expression, whatever, but it's an expression. And I have heard our friends, Brazilians, is speaking in public. Pardon my French, I don't want to mean that. For example, the Americans don't understand what you're saying. It's not an expression here. If you are in Germany, use the expressions of your German culture. That's where you live. Most of us go back to the same countries that we have been there before. Those are our hard countries. So that's why we come back here. Very good. I don't think I should mention the importance of prayer for you, but I will. The inspiration comes during the preparation of the lecture. So pray. Pray before you start your lecture, pray during your lecture. Of course, pray before your presentation. But people who come to a thing, oh, I will speak out of my inspiration. Anybody who comes to a topic and say, I don't need to prepare my lecture. I just speak out of my heart only. It's just a lazy heart, okay? Because you gotta speak out of your mind too, out of your knowledge, all right? So just pray. The mentors will show you things that you said, oh my gosh, I can't believe I never thought about that. Yeah, you did, because inspiration comes from him or her. Just pray. And unfortunately, there are spiritual influences. We are targets. Now I'm going to ask you to pray with me, vibrate love, because I'm going to also speak about something sensitive. Everybody praying? Is vibrating love? Please. There are spiritual influences during the preparation of our lectures. Say, well, gosh, I just pray. Yeah, you just pray, but you're a target, my friend. And unfortunately, there are people who are not working for the light yet in the spirit world. They will try to attack you in a distraction. So sometimes the computer crashes. We are dealing with energies. The flash drive doesn't work. Your work disappears. So I hardly touch this computer. My whole presentation disappeared. That has happened to me. I couldn't believe it. I even cried. I say, this is a test of perseverance. Because I have prayed. I know that it was in synchrony, in tune with the mentors. And I lost the whole presentation. It was 2 a.m. I did not have time. And I had to find the time. And I stayed in front of that computer until 5 o'clock. And that will happen. Okay? And it's a test. But if you have to go through this, so be it. But be aware that you are targeted when you're talking to the people, and you're targeted when you're preparing the talk to the people. And the last thing I have to tell you as a hint, there is an intangible challenge that new speakers do not know this, and that's why we are here together, is the spiritual impact of the atmosphere built by the public. Sometimes you're just fine, you are prepared to speak in public, and you come to the podium and there are people are looking like you. It's not only them, it are the spirits that came with them. They're looking at you. You're going to take this person out of here, and they start vibrating against you, against you, against you. And you start forgetting things. Don't do this, but I have done that once in a while. When I perceive somebody trying to do a hypnosis with me, they start looking like me. I feel the energy of saying, listen, I'm going to do this lecture no matter what, and I am protected. The person comes out of the trance. It's just amazing. Don't do this often, because it can be a bad example for the other speakers, but sometimes you just got to snap people out. So be aware that it will be the impact of the audience, and you just, when you feel the impact against you, just connect with your mentor, because in the mentor of the center, because they are just next to you. When to stop speaking? So let's listen to her. I have 3 hints for becoming a good speaker. Charlie Brown. You must know when to stand up, when to speak up, and when to shut up. And that's why I'm shutting up right now. And don't be afraid. Know how to do the basics of your speech. There is plenty of structural books right there. And remember, this is your mission. That's your mission. To touch people's hearts because of Him. We should be in Him. Through Him, we can do this. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. All the time you're afraid, just remember that. Thank you so much for your attention.